Great to see you guys. Might as well start off with Tolemykus's quote. Never since 1830 has a graver hour sounded for Belgium. Strength of our right and need of Europe for our autonomous existence make us still hope that dreaded events will not occur. King Albert I. I'm going to say this as well. Tolemykus, thanks again, as obviously. Great to see you, Brian R. Smith. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I got to admit, let's be honest, though, Brian R. Smith, I'm a little bit warmer than you are. I think I'm about -5, but it's pretty sweet out right now. I went for a walk at around 6 this morning, and I was like, wow, this is nice. Great to see you, Gamers with Coffee, Ashley. Hope you're doing wonderful. And I'm just going to go through the other ones quickly here. Charles Latora, hope you're doing great. And William Arends, thanks again. I was reading your ATA this morning, William Arends. I'm not sure who's getting more out of this, to be honest with you. You're just blowing my flipping mind with the amount of material that you're getting and insights. It's just fantastic. Anyways, I'm getting somewhat sidetracked. King Albert I, what a good looking dude. Holy smokes, that's all I got to say. So let's get into the sharing the thingamajig. Boof, that works nicely. Man, you might hope you're doing well. Great to see you. So we've got that little bit here. Yep, Can Games, 125 days away. Oh my gosh. Can't wait for that. Well, I have to wait, obviously. Welcome, everybody, as per usual. Please let me know what you've been up to the past week. Of course, I know some bits because I've seen some of you guys on like the Not J live show earlier in the week. Last night with Wardrobe Plays World War II, they were doing their thingamajig stuff. Anyways, here we go. Live stream fact checker and interesting tidbits operating on 3 hours sleep this time. Whoa, you slept in. You have 3 times more sleep than last week, for God's sakes. Anyways, here we go. There was a huge conspiracy. I just found out about it last week and a little bit this week. A huge conspiracy to assassinate Franz Ferdinand that was in the works way beforehand. And some of the Austro-Hungarian military were involved. I hope to God we get to talk about that later. Anyways, that's a monster. Wait till you find out who was involved. That's all I got to say. Holy F. Not too many people know about it, it seems. Anyways, on the 9th of November, 1914, the Entente offered parts of Greece if Bulgaria would join them. That blew me away. I was like, what? Anyways, like I said, I'm just interesting tidbits for the week. Update on which World War I related games people have played. I think I've mentioned that. I've been, like I said, with Brian R. Smith and whatnot. We're going to get down to it eventually. I started cluing in. I was thinking about it when I was mentioning, it's just like, holy cow, there's a lot of questions and a lot of material to go through for the game crafting stuff. And I want to show you my old stuff, mistakes. I already made some this morning and so on and so forth. And I went, how am I going to do this? I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a live stream. And then I was like, yeah, okay, we'll do a live stream. And I was like, hey, I want to invite. I'm not saying invite for a full on. I'm not going to ask people to commit for that. I was like, there's a lot of people out here that already have previous game crafting experience. Well, even Brian R. Smith was mentioning, you were mentioning, Brian R. Smith, that, you know, you've poked around doing counters, but you want to up your game a bit, pardon the pun, but you know what I mean? And there's a zillion other people have done some stuff as well with game components. I was like, oh, why not? Maybe we could do, I could do like a game crafting day live stream at some point. And I'll just stay up. I'll stay on for a few hours and then, I'll be game crafting and we can just chit chat and talk about each other's experiences and so on and so forth. I think that'd be kind of a nice thing to do. Anyways, the engagement question of the week was kind of indirectly brought about by Tolemykus chit-chatting with me there last week on the After Hours show. And he was mentioning that, Tolemykus, you were mentioning about the airplane there being how important it was in that. And I went, wait a minute. Let's bring in the interactive questions here. Brian R. Smith sounds good. Wicked. Actually, what am I doing? I got to start doing this type of stuff more often. The submarine, airplane, or tank. And then last night or this morning when I was doing the war summary, reading it out, I went, why didn't I also add trains? The submarine, airplane, tank, or trains? Which one had the most impact for ending the war is what I'm going for. So you guys can just throw that around in your head. Like I said, we're going to go through this quickly. Maybe I'll throw. Actually, you know what? We're going to watch the World War I Callendale intro video for the SPI game there, the one that I'm doing the components for. Meandering. Mike's played it way back when. I'm just massively intrigued by this small map 6-month turn, 10 turns or whatever, and people seem to enjoy it. And the combat results table is just really fascinating, I think. Hold on here, I'm going to put this in here. There was a word in the body of the letter that I translated as nevertheless, but that the writer, the editorial content included directly from the original English as the word. Anyhow, no worries, William Arends. Well, we're going to get you a thingamajig soon. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to stop the screen for now. Then I can go to present the screen because I think I've already had it queued up. And boy, oh boy, does I tell you one thing, man. If you ever want to watch a lot of Great War video playthroughs, go to Callendale's thing. Holy smokes. Oops, I did it wrong there. So you guys can see that. Good, I'll get rid of me. Hold on here. And you guys can see that. Boink, boink. There. So here's Callendale chit-chatting about, it's only 4 minutes long. And I know I'm not going to get into trouble because Callendale before has already given me the green light. He's like, hey, man, just go do what you want.
All right. I got a new game on the agenda. I figured with the World War I that I played before, well, I'll play what I think is perhaps, I'm not sure where Guns of August fit in, but as far as I know, this is the first really strategic World War I game that occurred. SPI's World War I. It's a beautiful game. This is the initial setup for the historical variant. I haven't decided yet completely whether I'm going to play the historical or the free setup. The free setup allows you to move for the initial invasions along the Russians and the invasion of Belgium, which I probably would actually forego because my strategy says, well, the Germans should kick the Russians' ass. It's an interesting little game. Can be played in an evening if you push it, as opposed to La Grande Guerre. It's about 10 turns. Very, very simple, very small, as seen on the table. Over here we have the combat chart, which was kind of innovative for its time. The Rand game came up with a similar chart, which penalizes you essentially for having greater odds. Not so much in the sense that you do terribly worse, actually do fairly well in very good odds, but really, as you throw more troops in, as you get better and better odds, you just cause more damage to both sides. Usually that's what you want when you're fighting. So the strategy in the game tends to be, for me at least, for the Central Powers to try to crush Russia as soon as possible. You get some extra victory points for that. The faster you do it, the more points you get. And that's basically done by capturing the three highlighted cities, which are Warsaw, Brest-Litovsk, Vilna, and Kiev. Once you get 3 of those 4, the Russian army collapses, can no longer spend money. Money is kept track of on this track in order to defend itself, so it either has to retreat or take casualties. And then once you take 1 more city, Russia surrenders, and you can then devote your strength over to the West Front. It's usually a close run game when I do the historical version. The ahistorical version or the free setup, I think I can usually manage essential victories with that, which is why I kind of prefer the historical version. Anyway, this should keep me going while I have a couple of games on pre-order coming to me. A couple CDGs, basically 3 things from GMT that should be showing up shortly. Plus, maybe 2 only. Plus, I've got Men of Iron left to clip, so I had a lot coming in the short future. Wanted to get another World War I game in. The other option would be the Rand Morningstar Project game, which is not as pleasing to me. This is actually probably the best World War I strategic game beyond La Grande Guerre, in my opinion. We'll see what else. It's lacking any major problems, but it's only land combat. No real naval. Everything there is abstracted, and it's this tiny little map. just a little piece of Europe, basically. So very different scope of the game. Anyway, just wanted to share this.
Cool. Thanks,
so here we are in World War I, turn 3.
Hold on, I got to stop the screen and get him to shut up for a second. There we go. All right, so you guys got to see that. I'll pop on William Arends' thing. Yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting that game properly on the table. That's for bloody sure. Okay, I'm gonna hide this, and I'm gonna go back to the narrative, and then we're gonna get into start chit-chat doing the. So here we go, the leaderboard. I mentioned the game crafting day. We're about to do the video of the week, but I want to start getting into the World War One. Who or what am I in World War One? There we go. So here's your first clue. I was born in 1853 in Bad Bleiberg, Carinthia. Oh yeah, by the way, on a side note, I'm not sure if you guys saw that last week. Is that Gamers with Coffee? What is it called? It's hold on here. It's this one right up here. Did I put it in? World War I, 1914, 1918 by SPI. It was done sometime in the mid-70s. That's all I know. I guarantee you people, Meandering Mike would know way more than I do about it. Gamers with Coffee, Ashley, for flipping sure. All right, so there's your first clue. I was born in 1853 in Bad Bleiberg, Carinthia. And yeah, Harro Bosma was flying back, I think, from Indonesia. I'm not really sure if that's once. Greg wants to get into more World War I games. Cool. And what did Tolemykus say? Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl. Wicked. And good morning. Great to see you, Mini War Man. I hope you're doing well, man. So there we go. I was born in 1815 in Bad Bleiberg, Carinthia. Oh my gosh, it'll be neat to talk to you guys later. Maybe I'll even be able to chit chat with you guys tomorrow on your show there, Ashley. That'd be great, and see if we can chit chat a bit more about great war games. And people like, as you know, a zillion people here. Oh, how do I do this? I keep forgetting that people like to see the whatever. Is that a lot of people here have great war gaming experience, so they can say, no, don't pick this one up, or this one's a really good one, not very expensive, and so on and so forth. That'd be a great idea. So there's your first clue. No one's popped in, so you're gonna get your second clue. I hated Conrad von Hotzendorf. Boy, did he ever. That was interesting. Yeah, so there we go. And I'm going to start queuing up the video. That makes a lot of sense. So hold on, I'm going to get into my links. Where are you? No, I did say we're going to do the video first. I just got to find it. Where are you? Where the hell are you? Sandberg, Tolemykus says, oh, sorry, I got to get to the comments there. There, show. Sandberg says, Tolemykus, you're incorrect, but you're going to get a point. Hold on, I got to do a thing here. Oh, where's my, I could have sworn I had the, this, where in the world is my, it's not that. No, it's not that. It's not that one. It's not that one. But hold on here. I'm sure I've got it in the, because I really want to go to that video, and I can start putting in more of the clues as we watch. It's a silent film, for goodness sakes. So hold on. Would be in the nope, in the links. Sorry about this, guys. I thought I had it all queued up. And you're still not in here. Oh, there you are. There you are. Jesus Christ. I was getting worried there. Eric Global, my God, I haven't seen you in a dog's age. How are you doing, man? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's really nice to see you. Okay, let's go on here. Did I do it? No. What is going on with this thing? You're driving me up the tree, you little thing. Okay. So we're going to go back to here. And I'm going to grab you, you little brat. And I'm going to hit Control-C, which is called copy in the land of Windows. And then I'm going to hit Control-V. And what do you know? There we go. And here's your third clue. I invited Franz Ferdinand. I wonder if somebody's going to get this quickety quick. I invited Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie to watch my maneuvers in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Who am I? And you're going to get a point, but you are incorrect. Let me get you a point there. And hold your horses here. Doing well Saturday morning. Get busy for me. Okay, hard to join, but it's anyways. I'm super glad to see you. Tolemykus, you're getting King Constantine. Oh, I like it, but you are incorrect. But you're gonna get a point. Hold on here. And Gamers with Coffee. Actually, you're getting another one, but you are incorrect as well. But like I said, you're popping in the points right on. Okay, so let me get into the stop the screen because you don't need to see that bit. And we're going to go to present the screen so I can put in the thingamajig. So and I have to get rid of me so you guys can see this properly. So I think I mentioned it. If I not, I'll mention it right now. Hold your horses. So we're going to be watching. The first clip will be medical column on the move in Salonika, and then the second one, which I find is kind of grim because you're going to see a ton of orphans, man. Orphans demonstrate their military skills to an aged admiral. And then the third one is Mr. and Mrs. Churchill attend a fete. I think I mentioned that yesterday. Last week, that it was neat to watch Churchill, a young Churchill there. And the number fourth one is English soldiers enjoy internment in Switzerland. There we go. And I'm going to say, I landed a Wargamer magazine, February 1984. Looks like, oh my, wicked. Wicked. Wooge, Blitzkrieg in the East, 1914. That would be sweet. Yeah, I'd like to. Well, if you ever do a little unboxing video, that'd be nice. Serbia or Italy, Gamers. My God, man, you're just going a mile a minute. But you are incorrect. I'm going to give you 2 points. Why not? And there we go. So there's. I'm going to get into the next clue. I was in the car. Who am I? Cheapers jumping. No one's getting it yet. Okay, so I'm going to get back into here. I've got to go to the. Hold on here. Oh, it's 17 minutes in. As per usual, I've got way more than an hour's worth of chit-chatting stuff to do. Tolemykus says that Venizelos, and that I didn't show it to you, and you freak me out, Brian R. Smith. You really do. We haven't gone there yet, but I'm about to show it. Oh, Tolemykus, you're getting a point, but you were incorrect, and I guess you know who got it again. Cheapers jumping. Oscar Podiorik. Yes, indeed, it is him. And I'll finish off the remainders of the banners here. The bullet that killed Sophie was meant for me. Yeah, later on, Princip there, Gavrilo Princip there mentioned the fact that he was like, yep, I was trying to nail the governor, not Sophie. I supposedly had survivor's guilt. And when I was sent to Serbia, remember, he was in charge of, he actually almost seemed to have demanded being sent out into the field to try to crush Serbia. 3 invasions didn't work out well, and he got turfed out. I was heard saying I was spared at Sarajevo so that I may die avenging it. Wow, man. Well done. As per usual, and like I said, there's your answer. Well done. And just to see if you guys want to see a picture of him, I'm going to stop the screen here for a second. And then I'm going to show you one guy, though, very quickly, because it is part of the little world. I'm going to get back into the comments. So I spotted this guy. Remember, I'm always looking for daily images and so on and so forth. Look at this guy. My God, people. Look how young this guy is. So his name's Cadet Ball, CA Ball, and in the caption, it's like death, date of death not known. I'm like, oh my God, like Jesus H. But look how young that guy is, man. Just a child. What the hell? But I mean, as you know, you always hear about back in the days. I mean, they had like, you know what? I'm getting sidetracked, so just shush. Okay, here's Oscar Podiorik, both in two ways. So there's the typical way people see him on the young bits. I guess that must be close to the where he's at in. Is that really him? I'm trying to see the. Well, it should be him, but his nose looks. It's hard to say, but anyways, they say it is, so I'll just shush. Okay, let's go to present the screen here. So we can watch the video and I don't have to, well, I'm still going to talk, but at least we're not going to be doing the whatever. Okay, you guys can see that, and then I'm going to get in the big screen. Here we go. So, and away we go. Yeah, I found the orphan things. Jesus, Murphy, mother. That's just this I find really interesting. Well, I mean, I watch, what am I saying? All of this I find interesting, for goodness sakes. And I hope you guys do too. Look at the column. Jesus, Murphy. I wonder how much noise that makes, eh? That type of stuff. Oh, great to see you, WNN. Hope you're doing well, man. And on Tuesday, the Western Front Association is going to have a dandy of a meeting there, just to let you know. I don't know. When I watch some of this type of stuff, it reminds me of all the stuff that's going on in the background, not just always, right up at the front kind of thing. It's like all the support stuff and all the other whatever's that's going on. It's just mind-boggling. It's about 3 or 4 minutes, this one, so it's not too bad. Oh yeah, this is the one that I'm just like, Jesus Christ, look at them all. Just brutal. Look at them all. My God. Oh, look at the officers in the back trying to keep all the other kids in line there. They're in the back. Jesus H. Well, I guess it keeps your mind off of things, right? If you don't have a mom and a dad and all that. Wild. Hip hip hooray or something. Who knows, eh? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this I find really interesting to see Winston Churchill kind of like, like I said, I mean, he can tell people he knows he's important. So this is him. I don't know when. I'm gonna have to find out the date for this. Pretty sure it's like. But wait a minute, I'm trying to think. No, they wouldn't have had him farting around. So this must be before he gets turfed with the whole Gallipoli thing, I'm assuming, and then they send him off as a colonel or whatever to the front, the Western Front. But there, I can see him just kind of looking around there. Every consideration has been. Switzerland's been in the news quite a bit the past couple of weeks, haven't they? With the little chit chat talk of Germans potentially going through Switzerland. I wonder how much was going on between the British soldiers and the Swiss nurses. A little bit of extra, tender loving care. Oh, I'm just going to let you know, anybody that sticks around for the after hours show, I was mentioning to Zoe Dufour this morning that special arrangements have been made for the wives of the soldiers to visit them at the Chateau de. I was thinking, oh my gosh. Yep. And I'd probably want to have earplugs if I was beside that those places. Oh my God. I actually had a little good chuckle here. I think one part someone's got a little baby, and I'm like, yep, guess what's going to probably be a lot more in 9 more months after this special visit. with them. Wow, really? Thanks for that, William Arends. Anyways, boy, did I ad lib and editorialize the living dickens out of the after hours thing, like practically right from, yeah, this one here. When I saw this one, I went, yep, keep smiling, Bucky, because in 9 more months, there's going to be a hell of a lot more of them if your wife's got special consideration. Anyways, that's that. So I left that there. Okay, so we're finished with that. Hold on here. Oops. We'll go to here, and then we'll go back to the narrative very quickly so you can see. 25 minutes in this per, like I said, I know I've got a ton of things to talk about. We'll do the best I can here. All right. So we saw that. We saw that. I'll look at them. Oh, yes, let's do that very quickly. So I said I wanted to do this last week, was look at the maps scanned in from the Crowns in the Gutter by Ted Racer's book there. And for the beginning of 1917, for crying out loud, so we can take a look at what's going on, or what's cooking, you know, in the oven, or, well, we know it's a lot of crazy nonsense about to happen. My God. So I think 2 days ago, I don't know if it's official yet, but remember the Kaiser is basically green lighted, unrestricted submarine warfare. It's about to kick in, and the Russians are just about to collapse. Americans are going to, it's just amazing what's going on. Anyways, so let me get into the pictures. What did I say I wanted to show? Hold on here. The books. No, where are you then? Oh, hold on here. I think I put, yeah, it's back in the 102. Hold on here. We'll get there. We'll get there. I can find it. There's the Swiss. 1970. Ah, there we go. All right. So now we're going to stop the screen so I can present the proper screen. There you are. Then I'm going to make it giant sized, or kind of giant sized if you get it. Width. There we go. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over this quickly just to kind of see some of the things that's waiting for us for 1917. So we got the High Seas Fleet's going to be hit by mutiny and disobedience in May. The Germans withdraw to the Siegfried line. As we know, it's all it's okay. It doesn't happen until then. Oh God, who was it that gave us that video clip a few months ago of the animated Western Front? That was awesome to watch, and you could see the entire German line go backwards. Like, oh my God, it was so neat to watch the anticipation. German bombers strike London and other cities. Messines, which third Ypres is that? Passchendaele? I'm not sure. What WNN if you're around? I'm not. I think that's Passchendaele. The Nivelle offensive, French attack on the south, and then we know everything goes haywire for them. Austrian sailor revolt. I didn't know anything about that, which hopefully we'll find out about. During the 10th Ascenso, we still got a few more to go. Italians surrender in droves, but the 11th Ascenso yields major gains. Really, main areas of U-boat activity, Allied losses are evenly split between the British Isles and the Mediterranean. Wow, that's neat to know. All right. And then we'll go to the second one. Hold on. And there we are, the second bit. February Revolution, we know, like I said, that's about to pop in. The exhausted Central Powers retrenched to await the Russian collapse. The equally exhausted Allies attack everywhere but make no headway. Revolutionary fever strikes both sides. Got to go. Have a good day. Great to see you again. Thanks, Ashley. I hope I see you tomorrow, man. Revolutionary fever strikes both sides, but the Allies fare worse. The Tsar falls in Russia while the French army mutinies. The crumbling Ottomans get little respite. Last gasp offensive by the Russians towards Lemberg is followed by Hoffman's counterattack that all but finishes the Russians' army. Whoa. Oh, yes. This is part of that Kerensky offensive, isn't it? As far as I know. Romania, and that's for a while. Romanian offensive towards Marasti fails. Mackenson's counteroffensive is halted with heavy losses. Wow. The nearly impotent Ottomans follow the receding Russians and reclaim eastern Anatolia. We were seeing that a few times with the Big Bertha battles, some of those. Lawrence invigorates the Arab revolt with a guerrilla campaign culminating with the capture of Aqaba, and the British are repulsed twice at Gaza. And a new British advance takes Kut and Baghdad while small forces extend British power into Persia. So we saw that. That's awesome. Let me see if there's other little pictures. I think there was a few other little Tid-Bits that I did want to show, but they're not in this one. Hold on here. We're almost there. Yeah, we're going to do this. Why not? So here's something. How am I going to do this? I think I may have to make myself vanish. Yep. So I think I've mentioned to you guys before that, well, as you know, if you follow my community tab and take a look at the World War I daily images, daily headlines, I only do 4 headlines per day. And there's a bazillion I don't include. And there's a bazillion that I find really interesting. I was like, gosh, I want to talk about them sometimes, but I'm like, I can't really. But I want to show you. So I just put a bunch. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this every week because it took a long time. But I wanted you guys to see some of this, and I'm not going to read them out. I just wanted you guys to decide, hey, I want to like. But if you see any of these headlines or articles or whatever, and go, hey, Chris, I want to know a bit more. I've read them all more or less, so I can talk about them. Is what I'm trying to say, or let you know what they relate to. But I want you guys to just. I'm going to go zip by here slowly. And let you guys kind of like just let your eyes wander around and go, yeah, that seems interesting, or that seems, just want you guys to see what's been going on in the week. For crying out, there's been a couple of things I will mention specifically that you may go, what the hell's that here for, or whatever. But as you see, the compulsion's not imminent, but you can see all the sides in the Entente now. They got these national registration cards or something. It's a ploy. Let's be honest, to basically to make you look like a piece of F. If you don't sign it, because it's not saying that you're going to enlist, but it's basically saying that you are promising to enlist, or that kind of nonsense. But they're getting as close as they can to conscription. It's like, oh boy. There's the Ross rifle thing. This is one I certainly did want to mention to you guys. Is this bit here, the Brazilian exchange? I see this often. I didn't know. Maybe it is the way it is now in real life. I don't know. But the Brazilian stock exchange is mentioned often in the newspapers, which I just thought was like, whoa, really? I just thought that was rather interesting. Like I said, I'm just going through all these things here to just let you guys have some fun. The intense interest in tonight's meeting. I just popped that in, not because of the article. It was not a very interesting art. It's not related to Great War directly, kind of thing. But it was just yet again we've seen there it is, that thing again, the tonight and and whatnot. I just thought it's interesting that they hyphenated it. And there we are. This the new Russian chief, who's a complete lunatic. You're going to find out about how much of a lunatic he is in a little while. Fire marshal is to explain barn outbreaks. Remember, we've been seeing a bunch of those fires, and they were thought that maybe it was due to saboteurs and whatnot, but it's not. So, okay, I'll stop that for a second. I'm going to go take a look and see if I can find another bloody picture, some stuff here, and we'll go on from there. So I'm sure that she's that. I did do the books. Okay, nope. We're going to just stop the screen, and then I'm going to go go back to the narrative and see what in the world I was supposed to talk about. It's not on there, so hold your horses. As per usual, I don't have it. There it is. Don't worry, William Arends. I'm well aware of that your ATA is kicking around. That's for flipping sure. Okay. I was getting a little worried there. Okay, I thought something bad had happened. Okay, so here we go with the. Yeah, why not? No, we're not. I'm gonna show you the symposium that's coming up soon. Well, soon, next fall. Hold on here. Oops. Okay, you guys can see that. So this is the World War I. It's hosted by them, but you guys can see that goodie. So next year, next fall, this one is, this is going to be fun to watch. And I'm hoping to save up enough money so I can actually go and not just attend virtually. And then I can possibly go and see Greg and Ashley because they're just around the corner, supposedly. And I think there's other people that are near Salt Lake City. Like I think even Not Jay mentioned that he would actually go out to see me if I went around that area. So that'd be kind of cool. Beyond the Trenches, Indirect Approaches in Irregular Warfare in World War I. So that's going to be next year. They just registration's not open yet, but it's getting there. I just wanted you guys to see that. Hold on here. I'm going to go back to the links. Make sure that. So we did that one. We did that one. Yes. Now this just knocked me on my socks. Now, I don't think I showed it to you last week. And all right, good. Now this guy, I made a lot. Maybe you guys know about him, Ludwig Meigner. What knocked my socks off was the fact that
you see these two explosions like comets coming through the sky. They're like volcanic explosions, golden and hot red. And then these two male figures in the foreground running in terror towards the spectators. It's an extraordinary image, terrifying and powerful. It has a sense of foreboding and premonition, and is also completely relevant today.
Freak me right out. Anyway, so yeah, it just knocked my socks off when I saw that. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I popped him in. It was really interesting. This is that game. Remember last week, yet again, I was telling you about you guys about that. I was wondering if any of you guys know. And there we go. It's this game. Onus. Have you ever dreamed of leading powerful armies? Have you ever imagined crossing the Alps with thousands of soldiers and elephants and blah, blah, blah? But I just thought some of you guys would probably be into this. I'm going to bump her up a little bit so you guys can, and maybe, did I do it? And then I'll get rid of me. So that makes it even better. So there you go. I just thought maybe you guys want to take a look at that. I popped it in the sources and links. I don't know a bloody thing about this game. It may suck a hind tit for all I know. This one here I found rather interesting. So remember, I really like the SBI Soldiers game. And then this I was looking at BGG and I was like, is this an add-on somehow to the Soldiers game that they jumped ahead? Because that's only for 1914, 1915. And I'm wondering if they jumped ahead and decided to here it is, Eric Harvey and whatnots decided to get in and try to, I don't know anything about this, the game yet, but I was like, interesting that, was it like I was trying to find more scenario typey stuff or whatever. Okay, hold on here. I want to see what I'm missing out on. Where am I? No, I'm in the wrong linky bits. Hold on here. So I'm going to get rid of you. Now this, oh yes, no, we're not going to have, I don't have to show you that. Well, I'll show it to you very quickly or whatever. And then we're going to get into we'll start talking ATA stuff and whatnots. I think that's the way to go. We didn't even talk about, my gosh, we didn't even talk about the super conspiracy thingamajig. Now, the reason why I'm bringing the conspiracy thingamajig, and I couldn't really talk about it beforehand, was because it's about Oscar Podiorik. Oscar Podiorik wanted to kill Franz Ferdinand way ahead of time beforehand. I'm going to give you some of the facts. Did you know that Oscar Podiorik had a Czech background, had a Czech family background? Did you know that Oscar Podiorik was in charge of security for when Franz Ferdinand showed up? Did you know that Oscar Podiorik freaked out when people afterwards, when they had the bomb scare, and remember before the assassination, they went back to to his little their reception and whatnot, and Franz Ferdinand freaked out, going, "Is this how you treat your guests?" kind of thing and whatnot. Anyways, I'm just going to say this about Hugh Strong on War Poets. Really good video. That's it. I'll just leave it at that. It's a really good a really good one, and I popped it in the list in the thingamajig. What else can I tell you about Oscar Podiorik and the conspiracy theory about trying to kill Franz Ferdinand? Why in the world do you think he decided to take on generalship down in Serbia and whatnot, and it was a spectacular failure 3 times in the fall of 1914 because he didn't want them to win. He wanted his Czech brothers and whatnot to win out. He was also a member. He was the one that also changed the change of the course of the direction for the motorcade that were going to the hospital. He was also the one that told the driver to change direction, etc., etc. Now that's a conspiracy. And guess what, Tolemykus? It's all a pile of BS. And I made it up. And you want to know why I made it up? Because I was talking to Meandering Mike maybe last week about it. I keep running into these pseudo conspiracy theories and all this crazy, wacky nonsense about the Great War stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Let's make one up myself. And I'm going to see how and see what how people get into it. Oh yeah, I was like, and you can find quotes with Oscar Podiorik, and I'm like, you can add that in there and makes it sound like he's a freaking whatever. Anyways, it's all BS. It's 100% BS. But I had some fun with it. That's what I'm saying. All right, so let's go to let's do the week. Then we're going to go to the HEA. Yep. That makes sense. All right. What did you think of that one? Did you think that was half decent? Oh my God. Oh, I had fun with that one this week anyways. I was like, okay, let's do this. All right, so here we go. Good for an RPG scenario. Thanks, Tolemykus. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah, I had a shit ton of fun doing that one. When it was just like anyways, I did. I know. Okay, the week that was for January 5th to the 11th of January 1917. I can't believe we're already basically in the mid-month, man. This is just nutty buddy. Anyways, the 5th of January, British captured 2 enemy posts near Beaumont-Hamel. Ground gain in Russian offensive between Lake Babet and the Tyrol Marsh west of Riga. Enemy advance at various points of the Romanian front, especially between the rivers Rymnik and Bizeu. Oh my gosh! And on a side note, way back when Tolemykus, I remember you from way back when I was mentioning something about, I can't remember, saying, well, why are they so worried about whatever? And you're like, well, they're not too far away from Petrograd, the capital. And I didn't realize that Petrograd back then was the capital of Russia. And then now that I'm looking at other maps, such as from Storm of Steel, and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't realize how close Petrograd is. Once you start connecting the dots a little bit, I was like, okay, now I can start seeing things. Anyways, the Dobruja entirely cleared of Russians and Romanians. Isn't that amazing? The Battle of Kut El Amara begins. Well, the second, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. British occupied Zimbabwe and Rufiji Valley in German East Africa. But of course, I'm sure the British still want you to remember the first one. Conference at Rome between representatives of the British, French, and the Italian governments. January 6th, big daylight raid by British southeast of Arras. Stubborn fighting between the Carpathians and Foxani. Some enemy progress, especially in the Sisitsa Valley and near Odobetsi. A Russian counteroffensive between Foxani and Fudeni. Ground recovered near Obletsi. January 7th, close of the Rome Conference. Russians gain more ground south of Lake Babet. Russo-Romanian front is broken northwest of Foxani. Eric, great to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. And trust, you have no idea how many times I'm upstairs with my game that I have not played yet, the offset squares, and I keep thinking of you going, oh my gosh, I have to go, not have to, but I got to go doing whatever. I hope you're doing well. It's super nice to see you, man. Russians recover island in Vina near Glandau. Enemy advance in Kherson and Sisitsa valleys in Moldavia and capture Foxani with 5,500 prisoners and make progress near Fundeni. January 9th, the British take trenches east of Beaumont-Hamel. Russian advance between the Tyrol Marsh and River Ah. Enemy cross the River Putna north and southeast of Foxani. You can see this. It's been neat to see the lower volume of entries in the chronology book based on the time of year and where you're looking at. So right now we're in, January, and I'm like, there's not a hell of a lot going on the way there was in the summer for the Western Front. It just freaks me right out. Doing great. Eric C says just shoveled some snow here in Massachusetts. Nice to see you too. Wicked, man. Yeah, we haven't had any snow yet. Well, today we're supposed to get a little bit. British carry Turkish positions at Rafahs along the frontier of Egypt and Syria and defeat the Turkish relief force with 1,600 prisoners taken. The British take 1,000 yards of trenches on the right bank of the Tigris, northeast of Kut. HMS Cornwallis sunk by submarine in the Mediterranean with 13 lost. The steamship Lesbian, I was talking to Meandering Mike about this one last night. An Ellerman liner sunk in the Mediterranean on Wardrobe plays World War II's thingamajig. Prince Golitsyn succeeds as Russian prime minister. Mind you, there was other people like mini war. There was a group of them. Allies present an ultimatum to Greece demanding immediate acceptance of the demands of December 31st. I've been trying to find the actual specific freaking text for this. It's driving me up the tree. I really would like to see this. I spotted it for a little bit once, didn't, as per usual, cut and paste or save. I was like, oh. Anyways, January 10th, Allies reply to President Wilson's peace note, which is accompanied by a special note from Belgium, probably saying, please help us. Evasive reply by Greek governments to Allies' ultimatum. British progress continues northeast of Kut. Russian progress south of Lake Babbitt. Enemy carry 2 heights in Oitis Valley in Moldavia, but are thrown back across the Putna north of Foksani. The 11th of January, British carry German trench on a front 3/4 of a mile northeast of Bomo Hamel. German counterattack near Kalutsum, south of Lake Babbitt, is repulsed. Interesting. So it doesn't see Greenman as a spelling mistake. Oh, neat. Successful Romanian attack in the Kaysen Valley. Enemy progress in Sisitsa Valley and between Berea and Galatz. British occupy High Mesopotamia. HM seaplane carrier, which is totally cool. Ben Mai Shri sunk in Castellorizzo Harbor in South Asia Minor, which we haven't heard much about lately. Terms of the new British war loan is announced by Mr. Lloyd George and Mr. Bonar Law at Guildhall. His name freaks me out all the time. Every time I always see Bonar Law, I'm always like I'm thinking it's the Bonar Law. I'm like, what is this law? Import food orders issued by Lord Davenport. Notes from German and Austrian governments handed to neutral powers in answer to the Entente reply to their peace note. Good Lord. And now we're going to go to the ATA. Wicked. Just let me have a sip of water from my $35 glass of glass, which I just found out about this morning because I said to Zoe Dufour, I'm using your coffee mug that you bought for me for Christmas. And she's like, you mean that $35 mug? You're using it for water? Yes. Big breakfast, almost one. First nap time soon. Yay. Naps, beautiful thing. All right, here we go. Translator's note. I suppose I'm unwilling to leave 1916. So am I, William Arends. So am I. I'm thinking about attending the Niagara Falls Board Game Convention that will be happening in Grimsby, Ontario, to the southeast of Hamilton in the region of Niagara, 23rd to the 26th. Nice. Oh, gosh, I hope you do, William. And if you do, please take pictures. You know what? I don't have any money, but that'd be an interesting train ride. Anyways, yeah, I don't want to leave 1916 either, William Arends, to be honest with you. I was kind of like bummed out. I'm like, oh, shoot. I've translated a piece from the Berlin News issue dated December 22nd, 1916. I found it on the second page of the evening edition. It is stated that it is a letter written to an Englishman from a young man in the Netherlands who works in the Netherlands Overseas Trust Company. I'm just going to say this as we get to it, William Arends. Thank you for answering a question which I could have just went and go and found out myself, but it's been around in my head for years. What the hell's the difference between Holland and the Netherlands? And you're just about to tell me, which is awesome. Who works in the Netherlands Overseas Trust Company, a private commodities inspection agency. This letter and the editorial note that follows, it shows the tensions between Germany, England, and the Netherlands, and this supposedly private company in that neutral nation. One thing to take note of in the letter is that the writer uses the words margarine, animal fats, and cooking oils, sometimes interchangeably and without specificity. It should also be noted that the names Holland and the Netherlands are also used interchangeably. Yeah, I always used to think it was just some kind of historical thing, to be honest with you. I thought it was like, okay, back in the day, they called it Holland, and now we call it the Netherlands. I didn't know. In both the letter and the editorial comment, though the fact is that Holland is a designation for two provinces of the Netherlands along the North Sea coast, North Holland and South Holland. Thank you. I do find it strange that I am translating a letter originally written in English that was then translated into German for the benefit of the readers of Berlin's Nutschkraken back into English. That's probably kind of like a pseudo version of what people play around with a lot of time with Google Translate and stuff. They throw in something in a bazillion languages later and you come back and you're like, what the hell? I did so because here's another important sidelight of the war outside the great conflicts on the land, on the sea, and in the air. Berlin's latest news, a nonpartisan, I love that they say that, newspaper. 22nd of December, 1916, evening edition. The Netherlands Overseas Trust. This is a letter written in November 1916, translated from English, in which a young Hollander in the service of the Netherlands Overseas Trust describes its activities to a friend in London. My dear friend H, my responsibilities include, as stated here, the regulation of margarine and the importing of bacon and lard and the sale of other such things. Oh my God. It is on one of those articles that was in, which brings, it's related to this, William Arends and everybody else, was there was one where they said a city in Germany got robbed of a ton of money from a food scandal, unscrupulous food whatevers. And then you read the article and I'm like, you know what? Too bad. Because the city officials or whatever were pulling in illegal activity anyways. What had ended up happening was a couple of people came by and said, by the way, you see that rail car over there? That's a stolen army rail car or whatever, and we've got access to the food that's in there. And if you give us X amount of money, we'll give you access to the food in the rail car. And they were like, okay, you know, a little black market, whatever. They took the money, and guess what? Catch you later. There's nothing in the train. Oh, so I was like, oh, well, too bad. Here we have two inspectors, but I love this because it really shows how it works. It was neat, not the unscrupulous bit. HR and myself, we are the regulators for the provinces of Utrecht, Zeeland, and North Brabant, and we travel continuously to the places along the border with Belgium. Wouldn't that be an interesting job? Tolemykus, wouldn't that be an interesting RPG in a weird way? Being a food regulator during the Great War. Oh my gosh. If I have to administer regulatory rules in a small town where I am not known to its inhabitants, I take either a team leader or a sergeant of the Royal Dutch Customs to follow me on a motorcycle. And guess who gets a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink bits here? It's just like the quartermaster, right? I mean, you always got to be nice to the quartermaster. Anyways, these people are excellent. They know all of the small business people, of course they do, and give them quality information because they get a bit on the side. Despite the fact that the Netherlands Overseas Trust that's so cool, not an official organ of the state, they deliver all necessary information from the police, the custom houses, the inspectors, and the toll and tax agents. We have to enter every storehouse and every transit station, every shop, and other business locations to inspect the freight and goods at those various sites. You know what? The more I think about it, that would be a half decent RPG. There's a lot of intrigue and whatnot, and I think it would be neat. Every small merchant has to request a permit from us if they want to buy or sell margarine or any other types of fat or cooking oil. These people allow the small traders in these commodities only 1.5 pounds of margarine in any one transaction. What would that be called, though? Margarine and mortars or something. Oh, I'm just having fun. In particular, in the towns of North Brabant and in all the towns along the border with Belgium, we have forced them, the merchants, to give us the names and addresses of these various customers, as well as the dates and amounts of the purchase. Thus, we know from where each and every pound has been received or obtained. If we suspect that a certain buyer has smuggled processed fat, we let the shopkeepers know that this person should no longer be allowed to buy margarine. We call that interaction shop control. If the shopkeepers do not want to comply with our orders, then they will be put either on the black list of the Netherlands Overseas Trust, or on the list that we make for ourselves and do not officially release to them. And all of a sudden they're wondering why there's no business Whoever is put on the list cannot conduct business with any other firm in Holland except those that are also on the list. A few days ago, gosh, you can just see there's so many incentivization to just make some extra side money on this. A few days ago, an English accountant came into our office to inspect the books and then look throughout the streets and shops and search for margarine that had not received the consent of the Netherlands Overseas Trust, but he could not find any. Occasionally, a small boy pushing a handcart was found to have a small amount of margarine, but even this amount had also received the proper authorization. In this way, you can see that this system has been working excellently. You must understand how pleased I am to have such an anti-German job. I can assure you that the Germans have not received much in the way of margarine, fats, or cooking oils. If I could in any way obtain a solid position in London, I would certainly go there, but without such an offer, the Englanders would not allow me to come into their country. They see a spy in every foreigner. Nevertheless, you cannot believe that I could be pro-German while being employed by the Netherlands Overseas Trust. Everything is in our, yeah, it's a wicked way of looking at it. Well done, Tolemykus. I love that. That is really, yeah, you're right. Your loyal servant, WHTS von R. I'm leaving yours on for a while. Translators note what follows is the brief editorial comment on this letter. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, I'm just going to shut up. Once again, the German press wants to be seen as having been victimized by the English, in this case by espionage conducted through the offices of a private agency working on behalf of the neutral nation of the Netherlands. From Holland, it was previously claimed and clearly stated that the Netherlands Overseas Trust was under private management and that they exist merely to make possible the regulation for the procurement of authorized supplies. In contrast, it was written in the North German Global Daily News, where this translated letter was first published, that here we see this new clue about how the Knot is conducting its business as though it was a branch of the English commercial spy service, integrated in Holland in this all-powerful relationship. Every business, every ship, and everything else must openly expose itself to their inspectors in the same way that the Hollander toll agents and gendarmes are pleased to serve it. Thus, with this acquired information, they delivered these names and addresses to their English for their consideration as to which should be added to their blacklist. It would be understandable from the side of the English to place this official espionage under English control. This activity of the Knot is proved by the naive observation of the young Hollander who wrote, anyhow, they cannot think that I am pro-German being employed by the Netherlands Overseas Company, that the Knot is an enemy of Germany. An organization that sees itself on the one hand as an official management apparatus of Holland and wants to be known as a public servant, but on the other hand is under the control of the English spy services, delivering to them the same material that they keep as records for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, should no longer be seen as a neutral and private agency. And that's the end of that. And I think I can just go kerbloink because we're at 11:58. That's not too bad. Hold on here. I'm going to be able to go to my playlist, which you guys can't see, but I can just get it ready. And I'm going to, whoa. I didn't want you to start talking there, Hugh. But it's nice. I was surprised at what he was going to say. To be honest with you, I thought Hugh Strachan was going to trash the living dickens out of war poets. But no. It was just like, you got to, he goes, a lot of historians do that or as well, or put too much emphasis on them. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long, for goodness sake. So hold on here. Okay, so we got that done, and we're at 11:58. So I'm just, it'll be 11:59. We can end it relatively quickly. Thanks everybody for showing up, and it was nice again to see a few people we haven't seen in a while, like Eric C. and Eric Goebel. We haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice to see you. Should be back next week, as far as I know. Please, for goodness sakes, if you have anything that you want to contribute, hey, I saw this neat game, or hey, I want to find out more about this game, or hey, I found these cool pictures. Please send them to me, man. Just send me an email, or like a comment in whatever, or an email or whatever. Just do that. That'd be great. Happy I was able to clear up the geographical confusion of Holland and the Netherlands for you. Yes, he did, man. Like it's like one of those, you know, how did they get the caramel and the caramel bar kind of thing? Like it's just something I finally get to find out about. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week. Thanks again. Like I said, I'm going to hit the microphone off and then turn into a texter and start off the after-hours show for anybody that's sticking around. And that's it. And I'll text away with you guys. Thanks again. Okay, hold on here. I got to present the screen. All right, and I'm going to make myself vanish. All right, thanks, guys. I'm going to, well, I have to hit the full on, don't I? Boink. There we go. Okay, bye. Well, kind of bye. All right, here we go for the war summary for January 5th to the 11th, 1917. I'm going to say this at the beginning. I've managed, as you can see, if people are watching, I'm assuming most people just listen, but I actually made the war summary window the full size on my little viewer there for StreamYard. The irony is I can fit what you see is all I get as well. And it's like obviously I can make the screen a heck of a lot bigger, but it's like, oh gosh, I have to do a lot of scrolling. Other than that, I thought there was something I was going to mention. Oh yeah, except this first page is a dandy. Holy smokes, that's all I got to say. I think it's the second paragraph in or something. It is fantastic. All right, here we go. Well, you're going to find out soon enough. The great struggle to the west of the Sereth between the Danube and the Carpathians has begun with an initial advantage for the Russians. After artillery preparations, they attacked enemy positions south of the Botochu or Butuku Mountains in the region south of the Oitus Pass, and breaking through, captured 600 prisoners, 3 guns, and 16 machine guns. In the foothills of the Carpathians, 6 successive enemy attacks were repulsed with great loss to the Teutons. Along the entire front from Fokshani to the Danube, a distance of over 50 miles, there's infantry firing. This indicates that the Russians have now reached their defensive positions along the Sereth. There's now a single, this is it, it freaked me right out. There is now a single unbroken battlefront from the Gulf of Riga on the Baltic to the Black Sea at the mouth of the Danube, a distance as the crow flies of over 900 miles. Save for the short stretches in the Pripyat marshes in the region to the east of Poland, the entire front is now held by entrenched troops. To hold these trenches in anything like an adequate way requires a man per yard, so that apart from all special concentrations for attack or defense, the actual number of soldiers required to man the trenches is close upon 1.6 million on each side. The strain of waging trench warfare on a front of 900 miles will prove too great to be long continued. As soon as the spring opens, one side or the other will attempt field operations on a large scale. Just gonna stop here for a sec. I would like to know if that includes logistics. I think there's some way of doing it. I just got to find out how many yards are in that 900 miles and then divide by 2, or you get, I'd have to multiply by 2 because no, it's a 1.6 on each side. But I just like, what about all the logistical crew? Like all that other stuff that's like, I don't know. Holy moly. The Russians are holding most of the Romanian, and that's just there. Like the Eastern Front, there's just mind-blowing. The Russians are holding most of the Romanian front at the present time, pending the reorganization of the Romanian army, which has been badly cut up and has lost much of its equipment. There must be at least 250,000 Romanians of military age fit for service, lucky them, and they will be in good condition before the spring campaign opens. The Russians, meanwhile, have settled down to hold the holding of the Sereth lines along the winter. I didn't realize the Sereth River actually even goes all the way up into into Galicia and whatnot. I was like, holy smokes, because there's anyways, I'm going off track again. General Maurice, Chief Director of Military Operations at the British War Office, confirms the report that the Russian evacuation of the Dobruja was conducted without serious loss. That sounds like them leaving the Dardanelles, for God's sakes. No, not a single person died. That was a great, yeah. It's like, well, anyway, so I'm doing it again. Jeepers jumping. The withdrawal to Berea followed an attack in force launched by the enemy upon Machen. The first assault was beaten back, But later in the day, Mackinson's troops resumed the attack and the Russians withdrew to Berea. The fear that any considerable body of the Russians would be cut off in the Dobruja has thus been removed. German report states that about 1,000 prisoners and 10 machine guns were taken at Machin and Jijila. Operations in the Caucasus are at a standstill because of the snowstorms which continue along the entire front. The snow lies almost 6 feet deep on the level and has closed the roads. No flipping kidding. The provisions of the Russian army must be a matter of great difficulty, as there is no railway available from the Black Sea coast to Erzurum and Erzingen, the chief bases in the interior. All supplies must be carried by horse or motor power, either from railhead in the Caucasus or over the Black Sea coast range. An offensive in the Armenian sphere of operations is, for the present, a physical impossibility. I don't know about you guys, but when I read stuff like this and I'm a gamer, I just, I can envision my Der Weltkrieg map and all the terrain issues, and I'm looking up there. Yeah, I'm like, wow, I just love this. The French Night Report again notes that violent artillery actions to the east and north of Verdun. The Germans there, who so eagerly gripped the wolf by the ears, I just thought that was also a neat, never heard of that before, by the ears almost a year ago, are afraid to let him go. The Verdun offensive, however, is no longer formidable, and the waste of German ammunition there prevents too great an accumulation at other points on the front. The French dispersed an enemy reconnaissance north of Fontenoy between the Ols and the Ain yesterday and took some prisoners. The British transport Ivernia has been sunk as the result of a torpedo attack on the 1st of January in the Mediterranean, and 153 military and ship's officers and men are missing. The name of the Ivernia is somewhat like that of the French battleship Verité, falsely reported to be ashore near Malta, badly damaged by a torpedo. And it is probable the person who sent out the story of the disaster to the Verité had hold of the right story, but the wrong name. The Cunarder did not look much like a battleship, however. Even a German submarine periscope observer could hardly make that mistake. I know, yet again, it was like, good God, some of these writers are just wicked. A dispatch from Paris states that there were nearly 2 million effectives in the British Army in France on the 1st of January. This is by far the greatest army ever commanded by a British general. I just remember just a couple of years ago, they had Dick, just the expeditionary force. It's impressive. The British report tells of successful trench raids northeast of Arras and in the region of Whitschate on the, oh boy, that sounded interesting, on the Ypres front. The Germans tried to reach the British lines east of Armentières after a heavy bombardment, but were driven off. The enemy's guns are still very active in the Ypres sector. The rounding up of the remains of the German garrison of East Africa proceeds with vigor. On New Year's Day, a British force stormed strongly entrenched German positions south of the Uluguru Hills and drove out the enemy, inflicting heavy casualties. Several guns and howitzers were captured. The pursuit was still in progress when the dispatch was sent. The chiefs of the Teutons have been in conference at the field camp of the German emperor. It does sound cool. The meeting of von Hindenburg and von Ludendorff with the Archduke Frederick and Hotzendorf, the Austrian leaders, indicates that the next great move of the enemy requires the close cooperation of the Germans and Austrian armies. And I'm sure all of them had a big group hug. Oh my God, there's so many of them hate each other. Anyways, the French expert in an attack on the West Front in February, reasoning that the foe, imagine if they had Falkenhayn in there as well, Jesus H. The French expect an attack on the West Front in February, reasoning that the foe will follow his customary tactics, and instead of awaiting the offensive of the Allies, will strike first in the hope of disarranging their plans. Well, that's exactly what the Allies did with the Somme, for Christ's sakes. So it's not like, whatever, it's not like, the conference of Thursday, however, should have had nothing to do with the Western Front, for there the Germans are handling their own affairs without calling Vienna into consultation. On the Eastern Front, to which Hindenburg attaches great importance, there are 3 possible campaigns in which Germany and Austria might become jointly interested. The first is a drive across the Sereth towards Odessa in the hope of replenishing the grain stores of the Teutons. The second is an attack on General Saray's army of Macedonia, which might draw King Constantine and the Greek royalists into the war on the side of the Central Powers. The third possibility is a second attempt to descend from the mountains of the Trentino to the plains of Venetia, and by outflanking Cadorna's army along the Isonzo, force Italy to abandon her attempt to conquer Istria and Dalmatia. So I'm going to say this about the author. Holy F, if he knew what the hell they were really talking about, which is basically what he's saying. There was a lot of back and forth of like, how are we going to try to win the war super duper ultra quick? Again, they're thinking that way. But you get the idea. The growing economic pressure, which begins to affect the foundations of life in Germany and Austria, make haste necessary. Oh my God, that's so cool. A great offensive for which the new armies now being raised by the withdrawal of every available German and Austrian from civil occupations could provide the manpower is therefore not improbable now that the Romania campaign has been brought to a fairly successful end. We'll say this, they probably maybe should have, you know what I mean, either go towards the Balkans, and he could have tied up like with the Romanians, the Romanian front as well, and just have anyways. I'm doing it again. I'm probably going to continue. There's still a lot of pages to go. Now that the Romanian campaign is brought to a fairly successful end, the capture of Braia, which is reported from Berlin, may not yield very much wheat or oil, but it provides tangible evidence to the German people that German armies can still win victories. There appears to be a renewal of enemy activity in the region west of the Sereth. Several Romanian towns, Berlin reports, both north and south of the Buzău, were taken by storm on Thursday, and 1,400 prisoners were captured as a result of the day's fighting. The northern German army, which has been trying to reach the Sereth by way of the Trotus and Oitis valleys, is gaining a good deal of ground and may arrive at the river sooner even than Mackensen, who at Braia is little over 12 miles from the point at which the Sereth joins the Danube. The Allies, as well as the Teutons, are taking counsel together. Mr. Lloyd George and Lord Milner have arrived at Rome with their military advisors to participate in an exchange of views on the general situation with the French and Italian governments. Weather conditions have caused a more complete cessation of operations on a large scale along the Italian front than in the west. With the exception of an advance of 200 yards on the Carso yesterday, the Italians have been practically inactive for the past 2 months. Yeah, I would say wintertime in the mountains would probably do that. Greece has rejected the demand of the Allies for reparation for the recent attack on a landing party in Athens and a number of other demands. And I gotta find the actual ultimatum and read it out. It is, including one of, just remember, they're a neutral country, including one for the release of the imprisoned followers of Venizelos, but it is announced from Athens that she will submit passively to the blockade of the Allies, relying upon the ultimate recognition by the powers of her claim that the blockade is an unmerited punishment. Constantine, in other words, is not yet prepared openly to join the Central Powers and will continue to play for time. A German trench raid on the British lines south of Luss, which are probably held by Canadian troops, resulted in heavy fighting yesterday morning. The Germans were speedily driven out, Sir Douglas Haig reports, leaving a number of dead in the trenches penetrated. Some of our men are missing, says the British statement. British officially says that 51 men were captured. There has been much artillery activity along the British front. Among the points at which the enemy trenches were bombarded were Les Boeufs, Guiducourt, Gumiacourt, and near Hill 60. British airplanes cooperated with the artillery. 2 of them are missing. Paris reports the repulse of a German attack on a French post near Hill 304 on the left bank of the Meuse. East of Verdun, there's been artillery activity. Elsewhere, calm prevails. A Petrograd report tells of an attempt of the Germans to cross the Dvina north of Vinsk and of its repulse. The enemy still holds an island in the middle of the river, which was occupied after heavy artillery fire. There's been no movement of importance along the Dvina for several months. The Russian reports from the Romanian front tell of fierce and frequently renewed German attacks in the valley south of the Trotus. There were, for the most part, repulsed. In one case, 5 successive assaults failed to move the Russians. Some ground was yielded to the northwest of Focșani. Just curious if it's practicable and practical in a sense to have coastal submarines, like realistic to have them in some parts of the Danube. It'd be interesting. The remaining Russian troops in the Dobruja, after a bitterly contested battle at a point about 10 miles northeast of Braia, in the course of which they inflicted heavy losses on the enemy, were forced to withdraw towards the Danube. Their retreat will enable the enemy to bring his heavy guns to bear on billets from the east bank of the river, and will almost inevitably involve either the east bank of the river or its partial destruction by bombardment. Galatz is north of the mouth of the Sereth, and the Russians may decide to hold the city, even as a ruin, to protect the Sereth lines. British official reports tell of a great increase of activity all along the front between the Ypres salient and the Somme. Early on Saturday morning, 2 German posts in the vicinity of Beaumont-Hamel, north of the Ancre, were seized and 56 prisoners were taken. The enemy counterattacked on Saturday and again on Sunday after heavy artillery preparation, but the attacks were completely repulsed. On Saturday afternoon, the enemy's positions to the southeast of Arras were raided under cover of a heavy bombardment. The British troops entered the German trench system over a wide front and penetrated to the 3rd line. Enemy dugouts were bombed and destroyed, and much damage was done to the enemy's defenses. Holy smoke, that's impressive. A 3rd raid was made on Sunday afternoon south of Valmontia, unless, of course, they're already starting to withdraw to the Hindenburg, they're making the Hindenburg line. A number of prisoners were captured in this raid also. The Germans have made several attempts to pierce the British lines, but it's probably got something to do with morale as well. 2 of these on the Ypres salient are reported in the British communication issued last night. In both cases, the attackers were repulsed, in one instance with considerable losses. Artillery activity is also reported at various points, particularly in the region between Arras and La Bassée Canal. Much useful information has been gathered by the British as a result of these raids, which are taking place over a wide front, as did those which preceded the Somme offensive in July last. No indication of the ultimate point of attack is to be had from the numerous raids launched at widely scattered points. The Germans evidently are expecting a British offensive on that part of the front between Arras and the Somme as soon as the ground dries. It may be launched farther north, however, between Arras and Armentières. There are also the exploratory work has been thorough. On the French front, there's been spirited fighting near the North Sea in the vicinity of the Baths of Nieuwpoort. In the Champagne country around Tahour, an enemy reconnaissance was taken under French fire and dispersed. There's been sharp fighting on both sides of the Meuse, including a surprise attack by the Germans near Fort Vaux. The enemy's endeavors, Paris states, resulted in complete failure. It is announced officially from Tokyo that the Japanese government will arm with 6-inch guns Japanese merchantmen bound for the Atlantic and Mediterranean. The first vessels so armed will sail from Japan on the 20th of January. Japanese steamships intended to take part in the Atlantic trade will use the Panama Canal en route from Japan. Yeah, and we're just starting to talk a little bit about Japan. I remember Charles Latora being interested as well, and I'm starting to get into that. It's fascinating to find. Anyways, we will get to it. In German East Africa, General Smuts's pursuing columns have reached the Rufiji River in the pursuit after the retiring German columns. It was at the mouth of the Rufiji that the cruiser Königsberg was destroyed by British monitors 18 months ago. The country south of this river is swampy and broken by numerous watercourses. The Germans are holding the bank of the river in force, apparently with the intention of preventing, if possible, a farther southward movement of General Smuts's army. British naval airplanes have done a fine bit of work on the Maritsa River south of Adrianople. The Orient Railway, en route from Berlin to Constantinople, spans the river. Shoot! For the question, I should have also added rail. Trains were probably, I would say, maybe the most, anyway, shush. A squadron of British aviators on Thursday attacked the bridge and completely wrecked one of the spans. It can no doubt be repaired speedily by temporary truss work. What has been done once can be done again, and the interruption of traffic is a serious thing for the Turks, who depend entirely upon the single track line for their military stores. Berlin appears to regard the attacks against the Mateo sector of the Vienna front as a serious Russian offensive. It is stated that these attacks were continued on Saturday and that the Russians were repulsed with heavy losses, including a total of prisoners since the movement began exceeding 1,300. Petrograd, telling of these engagements, says 500 Germans were taken during their attacks. In Romania, the Russians are beginning strong counterattacks along that part of the front near Focșani. Berlin speaks of the Russian movement as a great attack on a front of 25 kilometers and adds that only in the direction of Odopești was the attack successful, the Russians there gaining a little ground. And remember, Wonder Weltkrieg axe is only 20 kilometers, so think about that. You know, and here's this big offensive or whatever. At all other places, it is asserted, the Russians' charge broke down under heavy losses. Several hundred prisoners are stated to have remained in the hands of the Germans. In the Carpathians, the cold is recorded as being very severe. Despite this, Berlin says that south of the Oitus Valley, several points of support were captured, and the Russians and Romanians were pushed back farther towards the plain of the Sereth. Russian reports give a different version of this fighting. They declare that by a surprise attack, some of the trenches of the Teutons in the Oitus Valley were captured, together with a number of prisoners, that the enemy's counterattacks were repelled, and that in the region northwest of Focșani, the Russians, by counterattack, resorted to their position as it existed previous to Saturday's battle. Southwest of Focșani, the Germans launched an attack in dense formation, but were repulsed. In the region along the Buzău River, the Russians are pushing a vigorous offensive. It is noted as a matter of interest, doubtless as explaining the failure to make greater progress in the Caucasus, that it has been snowing in the mountains uninterruptedly for 20 days. Notwithstanding this, there's been an unusual exchange of fire between the Russians and the Turks. The Russians have begun a strong offensive movement along the road and railway track leading from Riga to Mitau in Courland. I think I was saying Mateo, so we'll just go, I kind of like Mateo because that'll remind me of a never-ending story, so we'll go with that. Berlin admits that in Sunday's advance, they succeeded in broadening somewhat the ground gain on Saturday in the vicinity of the river Ah, which flows into the Baltic a little west of Riga. At all other points, it is claimed, the attacks of the Slavs were repulsed with heavy losses. A second German statement is issued last night, says that violent artillery duels are in progress on the Riga front. Petrograd reports state that the Russians have gained a village near the swamp of Tyrol, and after a stubborn struggle, have captured enemy trenches north of Kalsnem. In the Lake Babbitt region since Saturday, Petrograd states that 800 German prisoners and 16 cannon have been captured, and that all fierce Russian counterattacks of the Germans have been repulsed. I'm going to have to take a sip of water soon after this page, I think. The Russian troops, it is added, have displayed extraordinary endurance and unrestrained bravery. These operations to the south of Riga are primarily intended to relieve the pressure on the Russian and Romanian troops at the other end of the long eastern battlefront, almost 900 miles away. I'm still just blown away by this. The large armies assembled under Mackinson's command could have been secured only by withdrawing troops from other parts of the front. It may have been discovered that the German lines along the Vienna and south of Riga were left especially weak in the belief that there would be no serious Russian attack in that region. The assault now comes at probably the only, I'll stop it when we get to a sentencey thing, time of the year when there's any possibility of penetrating the marshlands. Let's stop for a second. Jesus, I just looked at the page number. I'm like, oh my God, it's only page 8 of 12. That's a long way to go. The ground is firmly frozen, and in the marshes, the ice is thick enough to permit of the transportation of fairly heavy guns. Wow. I'd love to hear the sound of that. The Russian offensive on the Kurland, I mean, well, maybe you wouldn't. What's that crack? Anyways, the Russian offensive on the Kurland front will probably continue for some time. It may meet with marked success if Hindenburg has been taking chances there in order to reinforce Mackensen, who must be using up a lot of men in the battles along the Sarah. I am sorry if I'm driving anybody nuts with all these little ad libs, but I'm having a blast. And yet again with this paragraph, after the person mentions, you know, like maybe they were thinning their line near Riga to, you know, to fill it up near Romania for the drive. I'm like, wow, this sounds so much like a decision point that people make when they're playing games. The Germans still make important and impressive gains in eastern Wallachia. Bolshani has been taken by storm, and 3,910 Russians and Romanians have been captured in the town. At this point, the Germans are only a few miles from the Sereth. After the capture of Bolshani yesterday, they tried to push on to the river, but a Petrograd dispatch states that further movements were stopped by the arrival of our reserves. Interesting, eh? Still farther to the north, near the Oitus Valley, the Germans took the offensive in mass formation, but being met by a heavy fire, they fell back, leaving a great number of killed and wounded. To the west of Galatz, the Germans launched attacks on the Russian positions on the Sereth, but were completely unsuccessful. Berlin, which declares that the German troops are pursuing the Russians defeated at Bolshani, seems to be giving more voice to a premature song of triumph. The Russians are taking heavy toll of Germany's best troops on the Eastern Front in the fierce conflict now proceeding in the valley of the Sereth. Even if they lose more heavily in the defense than the Germans do in an attack, the result is to the advantage of the Russians, whose reserves are inexhaustible, while Germany's reserves are almost non-existent. Here we go back to attritional warfare. And like in mindset, it's just like, holy F. Activity in trench raiding continues in the region north of Arras. Near Souchez on Sunday night, the Germans made 3 attempts to approach the British trenches, but on each occasion, they were driven back before the trenches were reached. They left a number of wounded in front of the British lines. There's been much artillery activity on both sides at a number of places along the front, particularly in the Ancre Valley and the Ypres salient. Ypres itself, already a mass of shapeless ruins, was heavily shelled against points behind the enemy's lines, receive effective aid from the aviators, who have also been engaged in extensive bombing operations. I'm just going to say this. I'm wondering, partially, it's yet again about morale. You hear the Germans not penetrating the lines, or certainly not to a third line. I don't know even if they wouldn't have third line defenses. That's right, because they were always thinking on the offense that way. They weren't sitting. That's right. Okay, that's why they wouldn't have 3 lines of trench works. The British wouldn't. You get the idea. The statement is made in another column that private advices from Germany indicate growing scarcity of cotton for the making of explosives and a total failure of supplies of this essential within a few months. It was asserted, that's why I guess we started seeing paper clothes popping up out of nowhere. No, that's cotton. What am I talking about? That's wood. So yeah, I could see that. It was asserted long ago by British munition experts that Germany's material for the making of high explosives was nearing an end. Submarines may provide her with rubber and nickel in limited quantities, and there are still a good many thousand tons of copper in the form of electric power pole lines and installations that can be used at need, but cotton is bulky, and the volume required in making cordite is great. The shortage of food may not be the only thing that makes Germany talk peace and wear paper clothes. The chief result of the conference of the leaders of the Allies in Rome appears to have been a decision favoring closer cooperation in the Balkan arena. Affairs there rapidly approach a crisis. It is announced that the latest ultimatum to King Constantine is a real one. and that it must be given a year or a yay or nay. This one I remember reading going, and I was like, okay, it's yay or nay. Yay or nay answer within 48 hours from the time of its delivery. It's just weird. I did it all over again. It was like, oh, darn it. The government of Greece has control of the telegraph lines, and nothing transpiring in Athens comes over the wire unless it is to the advantage of King Constantine and his followers to give it publicity. You mean his neutral country? Indirect reports indicate a very great increase in the armed forces of Greece in the vicinity of Athens. The royalist troops have been withdrawn from Thessaly, but apparently they have not been disbanded, and it is asserted that as many as 75,000 men could be put into the field at once were the Allies to attempt to occupy Athens. Game. Non-compliance with the ultimatum will almost inevitably be followed by active military measures on the part of the Allies, who, on the other hand, promised not to let the revolution spread if the royalists yield to their demands. Good Lord. The blockade has caused serious dislocation of the food supplies of Greece, but this is being met by the rationing of the people and other precautions for the husbanding of the supplies now on hand. If royalist Greece determines to fight, she will assuredly have the best help that Germany can give. The Teuton forces on the monastir front would be strongly reinforced, and an endeavor would be made to establish direct communication with the Greek royalists by way of Albania. It is here that the Italian army becomes important. At the present time, a line of loosely held Italian posts stretches across Albania from Avlona to a point in the vicinity of Lake Okrida. This connects with the main front of General Surrey's army in the monastir region. Were a determined drive made southerly through Albania, the Italians, in their present numbers, would unquestionably be unable to hold the enemy back. An immediate result of the agreement arrived at in Rome will be the material increase of the Italian army in Albania. If that increase is made at once in large force, it may prevent King Constantine from casting in his lot with the Central Powers. His only hope of success in the struggle against Surrey's army in Thessaly would be through assistance conveyed to him by way of Albania. That door closed, he'll probably decide that the odds against him are too great and demobilize. Woof. In the Romania, the struggle between, just listen to, that's just like, there's a lot of drama going on, man. In Romania, the struggle between the Russians and von Falkenhayn's troops on the Serif line becomes more desperate. A dispatch from Berlin yesterday stated that Russian and Romanian positions in the Casino Valley, strongly constructed and provided with barbed wire entanglements, were taken by storm in hand-to-hand fighting and maintained despite desperate counterattacks. The enemy also reached the Putna River, and the Russians here, it is announced, hold the opposite bank of the stream in new positions. Berlin claims the total number of prisoners captured on Monday was 99 officers and 5,400 men. This appears to include the number previously reported as having been captured at Fokshani. Petrograd reports that the Romanians who hold the lines in the casino were pressed back 4 miles. South of the Oitis River, all the enemy's attacks were beaten back, and without interference, the Russians have taken up new lines along the rivers Putna and Serif. The new offensive, undertaken by the Slavs in the region south of Riga, has already resulted, apparently, in the bringing up of reinforcements to the German front. A Petrograd report states that the south of Lake Babet, the Germans, after strong artillery fire, attacked the new Russian positions near the village of Kalznem. But as a result of the vigorous artillery fire and counterattacks of the defense, the Teutons were thrown back. A notable win was made on the Vina, somewhat to the north of Vinsk. There, a small island near Glodin was captured by the Germans by surprise on Thursday of last week. The Russians brought up heavy artillery and bombarded the German positions on the island thoroughly, and afterwards attacking during a heavy snowstorm. Jesus. The attack was so sudden that the enemy's curtain of fire came too late. The fleeing Germans were routed by shrapnel. The island was reoccupied by the Russians, and 7 machine guns and 4 trench mortars, as well as a few prisoners, were taken by the victors. The German report, admitting these successes, states that a farther Russian advance against the west bank of the Vina was prevented. Oh, wow, 2 pages left after this one. There's little of importance recorded in the west. General Haig announces that the enemy's trenches were successfully entered by the British opposite Hullock during yesterday afternoon. Throughout the day, the British artillery was active on both banks of the Ancre and in the region north of Arras, as well as in the Ypres salient. Some large explosions were caused by the artillery fire. Whoa. The French official, I wonder if they hit, like, what the hell did they hit? The French official reports tells of a special artillery activity in the Alsace. In the region of the Rhone-Rhine Canal, an enemy supply depot near Lillefort was destroyed. News from the Riga front is excellent. Hold on, I'm going to drink some water here, sip. The Russians, after a stubborn fight, have broken through the German positions in the region of the Tyrol Marsh and advanced about 1.25 miles in the direction of Matteo, their immediate objective. The victory was not an empty one. Since Friday last, the Russians have captured in their advance 21 heavy and 11 light cannon, 11 limbers, 2 searchlights, whoa, and much other war material. The loss of so many guns will lessen the resisting power of the Germans and encourage the Slavs to persevere in their offensive. Farther to the east, along the Vina, the Russians are also on the move, and dispatches from Petrograd intimate the large bodies of troops and war materials in huge quantities are available for the movement. It is possible that in launching an offensive in the Riga sector, the Russians are anticipating a stroke that Hindenburg has had in contemplation since 1915, an advance in force towards Petrograd. I can remember, like, read that again, and you're like, did Hindenburg have a stroke, or he was anticipating? It's just so weird. That's a fault for me, anyways. The military correspondent of the London Times believes that, including Turks and Bulgars, the total Teuton force on the Eastern Front now numbers 2.7 million. Holy heck. With an army so great, Hindenburg might well be tempted to try conclusions on the Russian front while pursuing a strict defensive in the West, where the Germans have discovered that they can no longer safely take the initiative. Well, actually, no, they start thinking they can. That's just crazy, Bill Akers, isn't it? In Romania, fighting to the west of the Sareth continues over a wide front. During Monday night and Tuesday morning, Petrograd reports that no less than 8 attacks on the Russian positions north of the Casino River were beaten back with great losses. The Romanians, farther south, lost some ground, but recovered it by counterattacks. The last page. Woof. No, I don't want it to end. South of the Ribnik River, an all-day struggle took place, but the German attacks were repulsed. About 350 prisoners, but I need my voice to come back for later. About 350 prisoners were taken by the Russians on Tuesday. Berlin claims over 900 prisoners during the past 2 days. The Germans at various points on the Sareth front have reached the river, but no crossing has been made, and it is evident that the Russians are preparing to hold the river without the utmost tenacity. Mackensen will be a long way from Odessa when the spring thaw comes. Colonel Norton, Griffith's work. This is so cool too, man. To read, I want to read up more about this. Like I've read it, but anyways, find out about this. This is wicked. Colonel Norton Griffith's work in destroying the oil wells of Romania was so thoroughly done that Germany's expectations of obtaining large quantities of oil almost at once have been utterly disappointed. Yeah, they even let it flow onto the wheat fields, man. It was nuts. It is believed that not a drop of oil will be obtained for months, even if the Germans have taken the precaution to bring with them boring outfits. The Romanian victory, yielding as it has done scarcely any oil and little in the way of cereals, unless you like oily cereal, is not much of practical value. Her Herr Bataki, Germany's food dictator, says that Austria's share of the Romanian supplies enables her to dispense with the contribution of several 100,000 tons of grain Germany contemplated sending to the Austrians. If Austria has to depend on Romanian grain, her people will be very hungry before next harvest. And remember, we all know what's going on right now, the turnip winter. The British troops in northern France continue to shake the nerve of their enemies by frequent trench raids at points all along the front. That's Douglas Haig's motto, man. General Haig reported last night a number of well-executed enterprises. Remember, right from the get-go, this guy was like, let's start raiding when he took over. Over a year ago. East of Beaumont-Hamel in the Ancre region. What was that? Shortly after Luss? I think so. East of Beaumont-Hamel in the Ancre region, a section of German trench was seized and 130 Germans taken prisoner. East of Luss, in a raid that took place last night, a number of prisoners were captured. Near Armentières on Tuesday night, many of the enemy were killed during a trench raid, and damage was done to the German defenses. There have been destructive bombardments of the enemy's lines at many points between Ypres and the Ancre. Well, that'd be a good T-shirt, eh? Douglas, the raid Haig. Anyways, the French still hold some part of the front north of the Somme, although it was generally believed that the British had recently taken over the lines from the Ancre to the Somme. Something tells of artillery fire last night in Cléry and Bouche-Avnay sectors north of the river. The last one. Or maybe other, well, if people don't like this, it would have clicked off a long time ago. Another leg is in this guy's an idiot. Another win is reported from the Tigris front, where 1,000 yards of the Turkish trenches northeast of Kut El Amara have been captured. Mind you, I make it viewers because I think I'm an idiot. The trenches must be on the south side of the river, for on the north bank of the Turks still hold strong lines near Sanayat. Oh my God, this is going to be an interesting one to find out how this sounded later. All right, hope you have a good week or a weekend and a good week, and I hope to see you next one. All right, and hit the end recording. Bye.